Let's dive into this. I've been going through the schedules for college teams across the nation, which, by the way, there are some schedules. I want to see if I can find it. There's one schedule in the Big Ten that's just like out of control.
Right.
Where there's like a 3-week stretch. Oh, yeah. It's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin opens against LSU in Green Bay, okay? Which is interesting.
Wow.
But they open against LSU, okay? Not good. They play Akron, Georgia State. They'll win those two. Then, in the span of 3 weeks, at Michigan State, at Michigan, Ohio State,
right,
and then they're at Iowa.
That sounds
4
pretty
games
tough.
in a row. There's always one team that I go, holy cow, how are they going to survive that? That's the one that I came up with. So, I've been going through. We've been doing wins and losses for each of the 12 teams in FBS. You will be able to see our full predictions. We're not going to do any predictions today, but when the summer magazine comes out.
This is a little sneak peek.
But looking at the schedules,
whet your appetite.
You can log on to texasfootball.com/schedules to see all of them. I decided to go through and pick out what I think is the most important game on each of the 12 FBS teams.
This is a distinction that needs to be made.
Not necessarily the toughest, because here's the thing.
Right.
Baylor's, or let me choose an example. Like North Texas's toughest game is probably at Florida, right?
Right.
Probably their toughest game.
Yeah.
But it's not their most important game, because spoiler alert, we've got that penciled in as a loss. You know?
What? I can't believe you.
Yeah,
don't
they're
believe
probably
in
not
Seth
walking into
Luttrell.
Ben Griffin Stadium and winning.
Look, UNT fans, I am not the problem here.
So we're going to go through most important, the game that I think will say the most about where this team goes. Okay, we're going to go in alphabetical order. We will start the Baylor Bears.
Okay.
My pick here is their first conference game. September 24th, they host Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's a squad that was very good last year, and they have a lot coming back. But I know you and I think we've been burned too many times by Oklahoma State. Well,
yeah, and I think I'm even a little more gun shy than you are.
Yeah.
I think you give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt than I'm willing to at this point.
I think so. They bring back a lot, and Baylor's got some big time questions. But here you go, a top tier Big 12 team at home to open conference play.
Sure.
I think this is a key game. They're going to enter almost certainly 3-0, playing Northwestern, SMU, and then at Rice. Rice, no, but they'll probably enter 3-0, right?
Sure.
This is the first big game. And especially considering the next 2 games are at Iowa State and home against Kansas, you could very reasonably, if you win this game, you could be talking about 6-0, and things are looking very good for the Bears. So I think their first conference game, September 24th against Oklahoma State, Baylor's most important game.
Sure.
Houston, another first game. This one, first game of the year. We've talked about it at length. September 3rd, they play Oklahoma at NRG Stadium. This is the most important game of the year. We think Houston has a chance to be pretty good. We think they have a chance to be as good as they were last year. Maybe. Maybe a half step back, something like that. But we think they could be pretty good. They're going to start the year ranked. They're going to start the year, I think we've said, probably like 22nd. You know, in that, if it's somewhere between like 18 and 25. They're going to be in that back half of, or that back quadrant of the top 25. If they beat Oklahoma, who's going to start the year almost certainly in the top 5, if they beat Oklahoma,
oh boy,
the national media love affair is going to get slipped into hyperdrive, and they're going to be vaulted in the top 12. I mean, this is a huge game. If they can beat Oklahoma, and I don't think a whole lot of people expect them to beat Oklahoma,
right?
But if they can, the upside for this team goes through the roof. That's September 3rd. North Texas' biggest game of the year, in my opinion, is also September 3rd. It's the opener against SMU. Not only do they get to host SMU, it's the first game for Seth Luttrell. They get it at home in front of what should be a pretty decent crowd at Apogee Stadium. And honestly, I don't think this is, not only is this a winnable game in my opinion, but the other, which there's not a whole lot of winnable games for North Texas on this schedule. But this is a game I don't think they have to win. All they have to do is come out here and show improvement.
And be competitive.
Don't get your doors blown off by SMU. Now, I think SMU is going to be better.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't even categorize this as a winnable game for UNT.
Wouldn't?
That's how much better I think SMU is going to be. But that's okay.
But this is a game where I think everybody's very excited, and I think that all you need to do is plant in these fans' minds something's different here.
Right.
It's going to take some time.
I think that's fair.
I think it's going to take some time, but this is the opportunity in front of a home crowd to play in people's minds. Guys, there's a culture change going on. Stick with us.
Like, here's the thing. If you look at this game, to build off your point, right, and still sort of tie in with how I think about this game, if this is a track meet, if this is 64-32, as a UNT fan, I think I'm pretty excited about that. They scored 32 points.
Yeah,
they gave up 64, but this is a good offense.
We can.
This is Chad Morris offense.
As long as we look okay.
Yeah,
that's what North Texas fans
like
are thinking.
if it's 62-7, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
But if they score a bunch of points,
they just need to show improvement, show that there's been a page that's been turned.
Yeah.
That's all. For Rice, I think it's November 19th against UTEP. So they're hosting UTEP, and if you start counting their wins, spoiler alert, but I think they're going to be somewhere between 4 and 8 wins. Okay, somewhere between there. I know that's a big swath, but they're going to be there.
That's okay.
So they closed the year at Stanford.
Yeah,
they're not winning at Stanford. I'm sorry, Rice
What?
fans. They're not winning at Stanford.
I'm starting to
so
think.
you really got 11 games to win 6. And this is their last, to me, winnable game for Rice.
I'm starting to think you're not picking every Texas team to run the table this year.
Well, it's absolutely impossible, but okay.
Well, if you don't believe it, I mean,
so for me,
with that attitude,
Rice's biggest game is November 19th against UTEP because I think that's the last winnable game that they can go in, and that could get them to the 7th win. That could get them to a bowl. I think that's a key game.
This next one, I think this is fascinating.
SMU.
Right.
I think it's at Tulane. The next big step for SMU is to be, in my opinion, the kind of team that can go on the road and win.
Right.
Go on the road and win a conference game against a team that you are as good, maybe better than.
Yeah.
Okay?
Should be better than.
I think that's Tulane. If you look at their road games, okay, at North Texas, they're better than. Okay? They're better than. That's fine. At Baylor, they're not better than. Okay?
No.
They probably shouldn't win that game. At Temple, not looking great.
Right.
At Tulsa's interesting, and I toyed with that one, but I think
especially where Tulsa is right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think Tulsa's going to be a little bit better. East Carolina is, in my opinion, a game that they should probably win. But then this one is at Tulane, and I think Tulane's an interesting case study for them. Can they go on the road and beat a decent team in their conference that's on that same level as them?
Okay.
This is a good matchup on the road. I think that this is an interesting matchup for SMU. There's a couple other places you could go, but I think that really there's a lot of teams that I think that they're just either clearly better than or clearly not as good as. Like, for example, they're playing Houston. I don't think anybody expects them to be as good as Houston, right?
Right.
They're playing Liberty at home. They're going to beat Liberty. I think that there's that element to it, that there's a lot of teams they're kind of in this kind of tweener stage.
Sure.
And I want to see them beat another tweener on the road. I think that's key for them. TCU, September 10th against Arkansas. There's a number of different places you could go with this one.
For sure.
But I think this is their first big challenge. They get them at home. I think you and I both think that Arkansas is going to be pretty good. And so to get a quality team from a quality conference coming into your barn,
right?
You've got a strong defense coming back, and this is an Arkansas defense that was not great last year. You should be able to operate your offense. I think this would be a real nice feather in the cap to kind of vault them into another big year if they can beat them. And beyond that, for the first 4 games, that's their biggest. In September, that's their biggest game. They're playing South Dakota State. I'm sorry, and then Iowa State.
Rabbits.
Iowa State and SMU. Those are 3 wins, 3 games you expect to win. Yep. And then Arkansas is the one that if you go 4-0 in September and you enter that kind of middle of the slate, that's going to be tough.
Sure.
If you enter at 4-0, you're feeling pretty good. We're going through the toughest FBS or the toughest game on each FBS schedule in Texas here. If you're just joining us on DCTF Live, Texas, September 17th at Cal. I don't think Cal's going to be as good as they were last year.
Right,
losing Jared Goff. They're not going to be a terrible team.
No.
But they're going to be, I think, a middle of the pack Pac-12 team. Middle of the Pac-12? Middle of the Pac-12 team on the road. And here's the other thing you got to worry about if you're Texas, okay? Look at that front end of that schedule. Notre Dame at home, probably not feeling great about that.
Nah, probably not.
UTEP at home, you're probably feeling like that's a win. At Cal, okay, that's the game we're talking about. Then you're at Oklahoma State, and you're home for Oklahoma. If you
not home.
If you lose, or you're at the Cotton
Right.
Bowl at Oklahoma. If you lose at Cal, you are realistically
You're up against it.
looking against a 1-4 start.
Yeah, you're up against it.
So I think at Cal is a huge game for Texas. Texas A&M, I went with October 8th against Tennessee. So we know the SEC West is a bear.
Right.
That's not a real
not news.
hot sports opinion.
Nope.
So when you play a team from the East, and when you play a team from the East at home,
Yeah.
you've got a
Gotta win it.
TCB.
Yep.
You got to take care of
You gotta
business
do
there.
it.
And when you look at who they're getting from the East, they're getting Tennessee, and they're getting who else? Am I crazy? I feel like I'm missing one. But in any case, Tennessee is the game that I think they've got to win at home, because otherwise that SEC record is going to look ugly. You assume they're losing at Alabama, right? You assume, let's say you assume they're going to split at Mississippi State and at Auburn. Probably going to split that. If you start dropping these games at home against, I think, winnable SEC East opponents, that's when you're really in trouble. But on the other side, if you win this one, all of a sudden that the SEC record starts to get buoyed a little bit. It's South Carolina. At South Carolina.
Yeah.
Which I think they'll beat South Carolina. That's my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah.
Texas State. Interesting choice here. New coach in charge. I look at October 15th at Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Monroe's not a good team.
Nope.
And you're playing them on the road. That would be a quality conference road win, which have been hard to come by for Texas State. I think that would be a really nice feather in their cap if they could get that, because there's a lot of, much like TCU, or much like SMU rather, there's a lot of teams that I think they're clearly better than, like when they play Incarnate Word, and then I think there's teams that they're clearly not as good as, like when they play, say, Arkansas and Houston. So that's a game where that's a team that's on your level right now, and it's on the road. Go take care of business in a conference game. Texas Tech. A number of places you could go with Tech.
Yeah, this is a big year for them.
It is. I went with October 15th against West Virginia. You get West Virginia at home. You assume that if you want to be at the top of the middle of that conference, right? We don't think they're going to be as good as Oklahoma, for example.
No.
But if you want to be at the top of the big middle of that conference, which is, I think, a reasonable spot that Tech could be, this is a game you win. You beat West Virginia at home, you take care of business. I think this is a game that at home, at Jones AT&T Stadium, they should be able to take care of business. I think it's a key game for Cliff Kingsbury and company. And then UTEP and UTSA, I have their game against one another. October 22nd, UTEP is at UTSA. And for UTEP, this could be a game that could get them over the edge for bowl eligibility. Okay, I think that they're going to be right on that precipice of 5, 6, 7 wins. This is a key game on the road against, in my opinion, a beatable opponent. For UTSA, here's an in-state conference team that you are in theory recruiting against. And if you're Frank Wilson, you're saying this is the game we need to win at home in front of our home fans to win this for state pride. I don't think UTSA, spoiler alert, I don't think UTSA is going bowling this year. But I think that this is a game that you can put and say this is a feather in our cap moving forward, and we can beat in-state conference teams. Those are my picks for the most important games on each of the FBS schedules. What do you think? Let us know. #DCTF Live.